All right, and here we are, the Giving Tuesday BTI Live swan song as we make our way to the final broadcast of the day. It's been a good 6.5 hours, and we've seen a lot of the Institute, and we will end today with one of the Institute's most generous supporters and evangelists, and Paul Chomet, who is joining us, and we're going to talk a little bit about the mentorship program that Paul is helping to assemble here at BTI. But first, we have to say thank you to Paul for initiating his challenge match this afternoon, which I was happy to see we met fairly easily. So thank you for all the generous support out there. We'll read a list of donors at the end here. But Paul, thanks for putting that up and having confidence in our supporters.
Great. That's great. It's good to have the supporters. I'm glad to be here, and I'm very appreciative of everybody giving on this Giving Tuesday. That's great.
So Paul, some people might not know a whole lot about you outside of your membership on the BTI board. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how you got to that point, your background and your journey in the sciences?
Sure. I wouldn't expect anybody to know who I am, so I'll give you.
Don't sell yourself short. Come on.
Oh well, yeah. So I call myself a scientist, a geneticist. I started, I guess, back as an undergraduate, really wanting to go. Actually, always wanting to go into science since I was quite young, thanks to my 5th grade teacher. Which there's always one teacher out there that's that wonder, and he was the one. So yeah, I went into my PhD at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, and did the work at Cold Spring Harbor. Got my degree at State University of New York at Stony Brook. And had the absolute privilege to be taught by Dr. Barbara McClintock, Nobel Prize winner in genetics, in corn genetics, which is what I did my PhD in. And I worked, my PI was Steve Delaporta, who is now at Yale University. I did a postdoctorate also in maize genetics at UC Berkeley with Dr. Michael Freeland, who's is very well known in the field of developmental biology. And from there actually went into industry. So I did not take a path, while I thought I was going to take a path into academics, I actually had a great opportunity to go into industry at what was then DeKalb Genetics. Now it is a part of or owned by Monsanto Company. And I started there, set up a lab there, did some really exciting science in doing molecular marker work and genomics. And I worked at Monsanto for over 24 years, all in discovery science in plants. Amazing list of projects we went through. I always kept my hand, though, in groups or efforts in academics, and really, I'd say, established myself in the company as a scientist, not as an administrator. So I became a full fellow at Monsanto, where they recognize scientific achievement. Since then, just a little over a year ago, I retired from Monsanto and then went to a startup company called NRGene Incorporated, and that is an Israeli startup, also working in genomics and genetics. And so I'm having a great time, and that's where I am right now, I opened up the U.S. office for NRGene in St. Louis, Missouri.
Great. Well, thanks for that background. Quite a journey. And what brought you up to get involved at BTI? What drew you get actively involved and be serving on the board?
Right. So I said I was always had my finger in either collaborations or academic science. And in fact, one of those collaborations a while back was with a researcher that was there, and he's moved now close by to me here. Tom Brutnell used to be at the Boyce Thompson, and we had a National Science Foundation project together. So it was a Boyce Thompson Monsanto project, which worked out pretty well. So I got to know Boyce Thompson a little bit. I got to know David Stern through a number of also outside work that I was doing. I was on panels, NSF panels, and USDA panels, and I met David there. So through all that interaction, we hit it off, and I was fortunate enough to be invited to be on the board and be on the science advisory board as well. And that's, to me, is exciting to be able to see different aspects of science going on in the US or around the world, and get that opportunity. So being in a company and having that opportunity to be on a board of directors of an institute was really something for me.
As someone that's been in industry and made your way through academia to get to industry, is there something you've seen in BTI, in your relationship with BTI, that kind of an aspect of it that kind of stands out to you as unique or special?
Yeah, the ability to work with a lot of different groups. Not only are there a really variety of sciences going on at BTI, very exciting different aspects of plant biology, but their ability to reach out to groups around the world and pull that information together to really advance plant science at BTI. The other unique aspect, I think, is sitting on the Cornell campus gives just an amazing opportunity for the Institute and for students and professors. So there's a sharing back and forth. And I really think that brings a lot to the Institute. So it's been really nice to see.
Yeah, and all the touring we've done today, certainly the collaborative atmosphere in the Institute was really on full display. You learn about how different labs depend on each other to kind of accomplish their work. And it's really fortunate I think, for everyone to kind of be under one roof and have that ability to interact in that way.
Right.
David talked about, our interview earlier with David Stern, he talked about when he got here, he just wanted to start knocking down walls.
Yeah, you want to open it up. You want to have everybody working together, and I think it is really unique there. It's not like some departments in universities where you've got a hall and nobody actually walks outside that hall to get information. And so people really share a lot and share with the community. And I think that's another piece that's pretty exciting. There's a lot of community work that goes on. So I think Ithaca is very fortunate. And I hope that world expands further than Ithaca. And I know it has. But as a community outreach, it would be really neat to see it go beyond the immediate community.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of serving the scientists internally here, you recently kind of kicked off a new mentorship initiative here at BTI. Tell us a little bit about the details there and kind of what inspired you to go down that road. Yeah,
I certainly will not take credit at all for this. Sarah, I would say the PGS, the Postgraduate Society, Sarah Hind, and others really have worked hard to make this initiative happen. I talked with them and suggested things because this was an idea that has worked through a number of companies, actually, where even within companies, there are mentor-mentee programs to allow employees, and this happened at Monsanto, allow employees to really get a breadth of understanding of what's going on, as well as get a lot of outside advice from people that aren't their immediate supervisors. So here, we know that scientist training certainly occurs in academics around the world. But from there, people are going to go out to all sorts of different jobs. They're not just going to academic jobs. In fact, most of them are not going to academic jobs. What's interesting is, of course, most of the mentors for scientists, they're principal investigators. The people who are running the labs are academic scientists. They came from academics and they lived in it, grew up in it, yet most of the people are not going to stay there. So how do you get really an understanding, a breadth of information, a good feeling of where to go in your career? And so you really have to bring in people who are not just your immediate mentor, your principal investigator, or your the head of the lab. You really need to see or talk with others, and that is what this is all about. It's trying to get outside people, whether it's outside of the lab, whether it's outside of academics, or whether it's even outside of science, getting advice, getting information from people that have a lot of experience. So the hope is that people will build up a network of names that people will have some comfort in being able to connect with. And I know that's always the hardest thing for a lot of people, young or old, is to go outside of your comfort zone and start talking with someone that you might not have a relationship with already. So having a connection that PGS will build a list of people that have connections to Boyce Thompson and have introductions from people that they are comfortable with, and that will grow students' capability to talk with people outside of the immediate realm that they live in. I think that's going to be eye-opening. It'll be great. What I also thought would be worthwhile is, and that's why I gave the matching fund, was to have somebody travel to actually go meet someone that's not sitting on the campus at Cornell or Boyce Thompson. So I think that it's going to be an important aspect, is to actually sit down and meet with people, to talk through career alternatives, to talk through more specifics about what they're looking for, or just to really get an understanding of what different aspects of what scientific careers can be, because there is an amazing amount of different careers that are outside of teaching or research in the lab. So I'm really excited about this program.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. There's no doubt that it's serving a need. I'm curious. You find yourself in a startup now. When you talk to PGS members, or you just recently came and spoke at the Institute. How much of science and entrepreneurship is starting to blend? Is that becoming a trend, or do you think there's a future there?
Science and entrepreneurship, meaning, is there a lot of startups that are science based? Is that?
Yeah. Do you think kind of what you did is that an avenue that people coming out of academia might start to look at more?
Oh yeah. It's been more than just a trend in the big startup areas like the San Francisco area or the Boston area. That is, and even the St. Louis area. So I'm sitting in a building that has about 40 startup companies. And right next door is another building with another 40. And then right near the Donald Danforth Center, which is just a couple miles away, there's probably another 50 companies, all hiring people in different areas. And it's a really amazing time. And we've been through times like this, but these are fast-moving startup companies that can pull people in. Now, it's definitely a different career. There's differences between this kind of career and, let's say, going into either a large company or going into a nonprofit or a government agency. I mean, there's stability questions. How much stability you have? How fast paced is it? How much do you want people to tell you to do things, or how much do you have to take on in terms of responsibility for direction and effort? So there's lots of differences, but the opportunities are here. The opportunities are around for startups to occur, and a lot of them are completely science-based. People have great ideas. People in the labs right now have really cool ideas that they just came up with and invented. It's taking that and moving it to, can I make money at this? Is there a market? And then understanding the business. And I don't have a business background, but getting a feel for what will, take off in terms of markets, market niches. It's something you learn, but it's also something that you can get a feeling for as you work in the industry. So yeah, I would say yes, there is. It's here. It is here right now.
So lastly, I was just curious, you were, as I mentioned, you were here giving a talk a few weeks ago. What kind of questions did you field from some of the younger scientists here at BTI about anything connections or mentorship wise? Was there any kind of reoccurring theme, or was there anything in particular you?
Well, so on the absolute positive side, the reoccurring theme was how do I start? Let's go. I want to start the mentorship. I want to get in and make connections, and there were a lot of excited people about that. I have to say there was also it was a couple of weeks ago. It was only days after an election, and there was certainly a feeling of what's going to happen next. And of course, I have no answers what's going to happen next, but I can say science is still going to continue, prevail. There will be an NIH and NSF, and a USDA will continue. I don't think that's going away. So I think the absolute fears that postdocs, graduate students, and PIs had were certainly founded, no question about it. But I think in years past and going through many years of seeing elections go by, I think there's going to be a lot of buffering of what happens to our country. And I think the opportunities will still be all there for science, and it might shift in the goals and where we go with the science. And that's really what scientists have to watch for. What are the goalposts that we need to be watching as our government, as our nonprofit groups start shifting around and looking at where they want to put money. And so I think that's really what it comes down to, is keeping our ear to the ground and seeing what are the goals, and let's start moving towards it. Well,
it sounds like there's either way, there's a bright future ahead, and I think
absolutely
the support of individuals like yourself certainly make that possible. So from the BTI perspective, we thank you for the time and generosity you've given to the Institute. And thank you for taking 25 minutes of your day to chat with us on our Giving Tuesday broadcasts. We wish you all the best with your company there in St. Louis. I hope you get to escape a little bit for some Ted Drews or something like that. I have extended family in the area, so we make it back every so often. So we'll have to look you up.
Okay, sounds great. You're welcome. And I'm already there in Ithaca. I would love to be staying there and seeing the Institute and walking around with you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you, and we hope you'll be back here soon. Before we conclude today's broadcast, I just want to give a shout out to all of the generous donors who participated in philanthropic generosity today towards BTI. And those people are Alan and Ann Renwick, Bob and Joanna Granados, Don and Marcia Slocum, Laura Phillips, Hartmut Forrester, Paul Chomet right in front of me. Thank you, Paul. Rye Forseth, Sophia Darling, Aaron Goddard, Josh Clark, Casey Keller, and Denise Keller. Those are two people in the St. Louis area. I know that much. And Sharon Clark as well. So thank you to everyone who chipped in during Giving Tuesday. Thank you for everyone who tuned into our broadcast and took the time to learn a little bit more about BTI or refamiliarize yourself with BTI. And we thank you all so much. And we will be back with live streams pretty regularly, probably. So stick with us and keep an eye out for more events and more talks and great speakers like Paul who come to BTI and share their knowledge. Thank you again for being with us. And we appreciate all your support on Giving Tuesday and for the rest of our campaign leading up to the end of the calendar year. Have a great day.
Take care.